Well, on behalf of the Global Council for Science and the Environment, GCSE, I'm so pleased to welcome all of you to what is really part 2 of our second public roundtable related to this initiative, Pathways Toward Accreditation for Sustainability and Sustainability-Related Programs in Higher Education, using an approach that centers justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. That is the full name of this project. We had a great conversation yesterday, and I know a few people have returned to hear the thoughts of today's panelists on this important topic. I really love this idea that I heard at a workshop on inclusive facilitation. The facilitator said that a problem is like a campfire that we all sit around, and this is how we change the culture. I think that's such a cool idea, right? So as I'm talking, please take a moment and introduce yourself in the chat so that we know who's with us today sitting around this campfire. The problem we're talking about today is this sustainability skills gap. And what we hope to do today is just bring together some people from the workforce side. When we say workforce, we're talking about employers of sustainability graduates. So we have corporations, consulting firms, city and state government, federal agencies, entrepreneurial businesses, B Corps. There's a lot of hiring happening in sustainability and a lot more climate jobs about to happen. So at GCSE, what we want to do is just bring these two groups together and talk about how we can better align sustainability programs and sustainability professions. Here's what we hope will happen today. After I introduce our facilitators and our panelists, I'll give you a brief overview of the Pathways Toward Accreditation initiative, and then we'll hear from our panelists. We hope to wrap the panel portion at around 45, not later than 50 past the hour, leaving time for small group discussion in a breakout room. I know some folks might have to drop off at the top of the hour, and that's just fine, but we hope to give you a nice time to choose which panelist you would like to talk more about, and we'll have a GCSE facilitator in the room with you as well. I guarantee they're all going to be great. At the end, we'll reconvene briefly just for some next steps, and of course, you'll receive a recording, a written summary, and the slides consolidated from both sessions, yesterday's roundtable discussion and today. We had over 220 people register for these conversations. So I think there's just a lot of interest, and I really want to thank all of you for being here and for engaging in this conversation with us. My name is Krista Heiser, and I'm the Senior Lead and Advisor for Sustainability Education at GCSE. I'm also a professor at Kapiolani Community College in Honolulu, Hawaii, where I served as the director of the Center for Sustainability across the curriculum for the University of Hawaii 10 campus system. So I've been looking at this development for a long time, and I've taken a leave of absence from that position in order to work with GCSE. I love working with Alex Ramey, our program associate, if you want to wave, and Shelley Kosak, who's our senior advisor for university relations. It's just been a really exciting year. We could not do this work without our scholars team consisting of Katja Bringers and Jordan King, who are the lead researchers on the key competencies for sustainability education. And this is an active research project that we're going to talk about a little bit today. And it's available on our website. We'll post the link in the chat. You can read this proposal statement, which is describing 8 key competencies and how they're interrelated, how they take place in an implementation field to train change agents, to create transformative curriculum. And yesterday we talked a lot about how a values thinking competency plays a leading role. This is an active research project to assess convergence in the field around this framework and how it might be used for program development, design, and evaluation. I'm also so happy that Ryan Johnson is with us today. A lot of the panelists today came from Ryan Johnson's network. Ryan is the executive director for professional sustainability education and training at the ASU School of Sustainability. So he works right in this intersection. Ryan will be facilitating in one of our breakout rooms today. And also with us today is Rod Parnell. Rod is Professor Emeritus from Northern Arizona University and has a long, rich, very deep history with this work, is so wise, and Rod will be participating in our breakout rooms today as well. I want to just take a breath and acknowledge land acknowledgements. We're on Zoom, so we are in many places right now. I like this website, which can show you more about the people and the place where you're situated, and how important it is to know not just where we are, but how these lands were acquired and what our institutions, our organizations, and we personally can do to be in relationship with the Native peoples and the history of our places. And with this, I'd like to turn it over to Alex Ramey, who is in Washington, D.C.
Hi, again, my name is Alex, and I am a representative of the Global Council for Science and the Environment. We are based in Washington, D.C., where we sit on the ancestral lands of the Nacotchtank or Anacostans and neighbor the ancestral lands of the Piscataway and the Pamunkey peoples. We take a moment to acknowledge this land and those people. And I'd also like to read GCSE's oath to be anti-racist and inclusive through sustained learning, action, and accountability. We do this at every public meeting for GCSE. The Global Council for Science and the Environment acknowledges that regardless of one's own race or ethnicity, individuals are at various points along an anti-racist journey. As an organization committed to becoming anti-racist and multicultural, GCSE will purposefully work to identify, discuss, and challenge issues of race, color, ethnicity, orientation, and the impacts they have on GCSE, its mission, its partner organization, and its people. We accept this challenge as our continuous journey. And I'm going to pass it back over to Krista to tell you more about this program.
Thank you, Alex. The Pathways Toward Accreditation Initiative is funded by the Cynthia and George Mitchell Foundation, giving us a real opportunity to, again, advance this work. The response has been really positive and really a lot of engagement. It's a great time to be talking about this issue and how we can both improve sustainability education programs and expand access to these programs so that more students and more communities have access to these skills, these programs, and these sustainability jobs and careers. So there's 5 elements of it. One is the inclusive participation. This is what we're doing today. We have quarterly roundtables to engage with different stakeholder groups, and this is our second roundtable. We have monthly meetings with the GCSE community of practice, and this group really gets into the nitty-gritty of the work and deep discussion. We post all these materials on our website and have newsletters both for GCSE members and for the broader community. And lastly, we have formed a really, truly awesome Sustainability Leadership Advisory Council, the CLAC. I know a few of these people are with us today, and I'm so excited to be working with this advisory council of higher ed leaders in sustainability. A really important aspect of this work is that key competencies in sustainability statement that I mentioned earlier. This is like something that we will hope to offer the field, building on solid scholarship around key competencies. This has been developed over 15 years, and Katja Bringers and Jordan King are iterating, and we're really listening and hope to assess convergence around this framework so that this framework can be used in a program accreditation. That's the big piece. And a program accreditation is really a set of best practices. And we think we can design something with input from the community that can be rigorous and also flexible and consistent, but also context specific and place-based. Sustainability is a really complex and unique transdisciplinary field. So it's really exciting work. And what I really like about it is that the conversations themselves advance the work. So we're all having this discussion together. We're developing professional resources to support program directors and faculty who are working in sustainability programs. So these, for example, might be a short course in teaching with the key competencies, or might be a cohort-based, peer-driven experience to go through program evaluation, perhaps making new ways of collecting data that will help to better assess, evaluate, and improve sustainability programs. All of this work, again, grounded in justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. This will be the topic of our third roundtable this year in August or September. This is multi-stakeholder work, right? This is for students so that they can find the right sustainability degree program that's going to help them meet their goals. It's for employers so that they know what they can expect from sustainability degree holders. It's for communities so that they can be engaged with these programs and so that sustainability education programs can have real impact in communities. And it's for faculty and administrators who have been building these programs over the last 10, 15 years. Now, how can we align and improve all of these programs? This is a slide where I'd love to have a picture of all of us planting trees together on campus. But let's face it, it's administrative work. This is about spreadsheets and rubrics and Google Docs and a whole lot of Zoom meetings and conversations like this one. I don't know any other way to do this work. So thank you for being here to do it in a good way and to do this work together. The big question that we're talking about today, again, is how do we create better alignment between what sustainability professionals do? So this is a new career field, and the design of sustainability education programs, again, a relatively new education field. How can we better align these programs and their program evaluation? And again, this is about bringing two different stakeholder groups together, the higher ed side, the employer side, to look at what it is that these sustainability professionals need to be able to do. I'm going to next introduce our awesome panelists for today. We're going to start off with Professor Chris Boone. Chris is a professor at the School of Sustainability at Arizona State University, and he's done a lot of research on this kind of nexus of education and employment in sustainability. We're so excited to have Kate Brocato here today. Kate is a recent graduate from Colorado Mountain College. She's the Communications and Program Manager at Yampa Valley Sustainability Council, and she'll be talking about her experience and how her degree prepared her for that work. We will be hearing from Elysa Hammond, Executive Fellow for Regenerative Business and Climate Solutions at Clif. Russell Goldstein, a Senior Vice President at Bank of America in Arizona. Julian Keniry, who is the principal and founder of Green Teach for Opportunity, GTO. And Professor Debra, who has been a higher education leader developing change agents through sustainable development and education for a sustainable future. Deb's been in this work for many, many years, and we are so excited that all of you are here. And lastly, I'd like to once again introduce Alex Ramey, GCSE Program Associate. Alex works closely with me on this initiative, And she's such an asset to the work because she herself has a master's degree in sustainability science from Arizona State University. So she brings that experience to the development of this work. I'm gonna stop my screen share and turn it over to Alex, who will facilitate our panel portion. Thank you, Alex.
Sure, and thank you for that introduction, Krista. It's such a pleasure to be here, both as a representative of GCSE working with you on this project, and as you say, as a recent graduate of a master's sustainability program. So I actually have the pleasure of getting to start our conversation kind of close to home for me with Dr. Chris Boone, whom I met while I was a grad student at Arizona State. So welcome, Chris. As you know, we think that accreditation can play a strong role in aligning higher education, particularly sustainability programs, with workforce needs. So can you share some insights with us about your research and experience in this topic?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. And thanks all for joining today. It's really fabulous to see this turnout for this meeting and the last meeting and all of the momentum that this work has demonstrated. And of course, special thanks to Krista for thinking about this 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. It's really important work. So the first thing I'll say is that one of the things that we know quite clearly from the data is that there is a sustainability skills gap, and this is global, not just in the United States, meaning that we have far more sustainability related jobs than we have qualified people to fill them. And so this is an opportunity for universities and colleges, but other kinds of institutions to play a role in facilitating learning and training in order for these positions to be filled by people who not only have the skills and the knowledge, but also what we know in sustainability is the passion and the acknowledgement that they can be forces for positive change. So specifically around the idea of accreditation, that focuses primarily on the role and responsibilities of colleges and universities. And one thing I will say, just as a very brief bit of history, is that I had the pleasure of serving on the United States National Academy's panel on strengthening sustainability education. And one of the findings from that study was that, one, there has been an extraordinary proliferation of sustainability programs in the United States that was focused on the US. And a concern that was related to that is that we were worried about quality control, and that there were a lot of new programs coming online. It went from 13 in 2008 to over 3,000 by 2020. And that if students are graduating from these programs, but there wasn't a coherent sense of what sustainability degree programs would bring to the marketplace, private, public, and nonprofit sectors, that might undermine the legitimacy of this really, really important field. So the accreditation, the one question and I guess challenge that I have for this group and for Krista, who's leading it, is to make sure that when we think about accreditation and when we think about core competencies, that we do so in such a way that recognizes and understands that this is a rapidly evolving field. And how do we do it in such a way that it encourages rather than stifles innovation? Because one of the things that I've heard from other accrediting bodies is that once these accreditations are put in place, they can often set things in stone, and it really makes innovation difficult and hard to achieve. Now, I know that this group and the leadership has been thinking about that, but that's one element I think that we always need to foreground, just to make sure that we're not boxing off the amazing potential for sustainability to think and act in innovative ways. Alex, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much for your insights, Chris, and also for the challenge that you throw to us, which we hope to continue talking about in the inclusive participation component of this program. We want to hear how we can overcome those challenges. So thank you again for bringing that up. Now I'm going to turn over to Kate. Kate, as a fellow recent sustainability graduate, I'm curious to hear, how did your program prepare you for the work that you're doing at the Yampa Sustainability Council? And is there anything that you would change or add to your curriculum based on what you know now?
Thanks, Alex. I do want to just give a little bit of background on myself to provide some context around the question. I graduated school in 2020 with a BA in Sustainability Studies from Colorado Mountain College. My campus was located in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, but CMC has 11 campuses across the western slope of Colorado. So we're positioned in an area where we are already feeling significant climate change impacts. Upon graduation, I was able to jump right into the career field that I had been studying with the nonprofit organization called Yampa Valley Sustainability Council. Our mission is to serve as a leader, resource, and catalyst for building a sustainable and resilient Yampa Valley region. And our work is centered around decreasing emissions and increasing resilience to current and projected changes. Our priority areas span resilient land and water, waste diversion, energy, transportation, and community engagement. So the work that we do as an organization is done collaboratively with a number of local partners and stakeholders, one of which being Colorado Mountain College. So our partnership with CMC has allowed us to collaboratively approach the ways in which we can bolster students' training for entering the workforce and engagement and sustainability work through their careers. Through the work that I do now with the Yampa Valley Sustainability Council, I've learned that some of the most important aspects of moving successful climate action forward are community building and effective communication. And additionally, we've increased our impact as an organization over the years by bringing on staff who have specialized expertise within our priority areas. The way in which CMC's sustainability program curriculum is designed, I think the program does a great job for not only training students in the more technical aspects of climate science, but the institution has also made a concerted effort to fold much of that skills building work that I've referenced into each course. Over the course of their program, students are encouraged to connect with nonprofits, business owners, local government. They're trained in writing communications for a wide array of circumstances and audiences, and they have the ability to hone in on an area of sustainability that they might be most passionate about, from energy to water, or even food systems, through a variety of elective courses that students can take. Much of the work that CMC's curriculum is designed around aligns itself well with the key competencies that GCSE is proposing. I think the climate action movement needs professionals who can do more than just produce and understand the science. It needs motivators who are able to effectively communicate what needs to be done about it, which is why I think it's so important for students to be well-versed in the key competencies of sustainability. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Kate. It's so valuable to have your input as somebody who, like me, recently was trained in sustainability, and for you to bring up experience and experiential education has some echoes of what we heard in our session yesterday. So I really appreciate you mentioning that. Now, we're early career sustainability professionals. I'm going to move on to our participant, Elysa, who has over 25 years of experience in sustainability and experience at Clif Bar. So Elysa, thank you so much for being here. I wanted to ask, how have you seen your own sustainability skills evolve at Clif Bar over time? And have you seen anything change in the skills that you're now hiring for in emerging sustainability professionals?
Thank you, everyone, for having me here. It's an honor to be here. And I just wanted to give a little background as we didn't even talk about sustainability when I went into college, and I went in to study agriculture in the late 70s. I was really interested in organic. I went to a big state ag school, and I was quickly told that I was a mixed up girl and that they would set me straight. And so that was my start in what we started a student organization called Alternatives in Agriculture. And then we also worked on issues of hunger. And while we didn't get the support we needed from most of the faculty, there was one faculty member that was a game changer for so many of us. And so I went on initially thinking my career would be in international development. And I worked in small scale agriculture, and several years later, that was in Mexico, ended up going back to graduate school to study ecology, ecosystem ecology. And that's where I really felt like I started to understand systems. And that's one of the things I want to say that has been such an important grounding for the work we've done. It's based in that competency of systems thinking. So when I looked at the competencies you're reviewing, I thought I could see how these really support the kind of work that I've done and the learnings I've had to have along the way. So we took that ecosystem approach, which really meant looking at the intersection of food, energy, climate, and looking at all the steps that food moves through the system, and also thinking about people being part of that system. So with that grounding, the other competency that made all the difference is this interpersonal, the communications and the building champions within your organization, because that's how change happens. And then all the partnerships. None of the changes that we made could have happened without partnerships with nonprofits, government agencies, and universities. But so as time went on, the hiring that we've done has included getting people with more specialization. That was just said. We brought someone in was an expert in zero waste and reporting, doing beautiful reports. I've always reminded our team we're in the business of inspiration, not, and that's key to making things move forward and spread throughout the company. More recently, we've hired a sustainability specialist who came to us as an intern. And the reason we hired him was his experience, not so much the academic work, but he had done LCA analyses for other companies. He had done carbon accounting. And so we brought him back 2 years in a row as an intern, and now he's hired as in charge of all reporting. So I, in general, see this, and among my colleagues as well, that we need more specialization. In the 3 areas I would say I'm lacking, but we need is understanding that business case and being able to make the business case, understanding return on investment. Looking at, we need sustainability across the organization, logistics, supply chain, communications, education. And then finally, I just want to say what I feel the urgency now, just this urgency of climate training, and that I was not prepared to do climate risk analysis or adaptation. And especially after the reporting came out yesterday, to be able to just elevate the urgency of now and the need for this holistic, rapid approach. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that very important framing. The urgency is in the background of all of this, isn't it? And I also hope that the program directors in the room heard very clearly those 3 areas that you feel like are lacking right now. So I hope everyone's taken notes. I'm going to move on now to someone who also has lots of experience in sustainability. Russell, I have to confess that when I took a look at your LinkedIn profile, I was overwhelmed. There's a lot there, including you work now at Bank of America. You've previously earned a master's in sustainability. Wow. Now we understand that you also recently enrolled for a doctorate program in sustainability at Prescott College, and congratulations on that. I'm wondering now, what skills are you hoping to obtain in your graduate studies in sustainability, and how is this going to add to your professional portfolio?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks. I call him Dean Boone. That's how I know him. But for ASU and our master's program in sustainability, there was a fantastic program at ASU. But I felt there was so much more to learn. There's just this never-ending quench for learning. So a bit of background as well. In my day job, I work with philanthropist foundations and nonprofits. So by definition, I'm a banker. So I do banking things, right? Credit, investment, and treasury and things of that, and investments. But the reality is I focus on impact within the clients that I work with. And so that has morphed over the years from philanthropic impact to a much more broader definition of how do we really uproot the challenges we're trying to. That's why I went to ASU for my master's in sustainability. And this continued learning now, the more I learn, the more I need to learn. So what I thought was an interesting solution, I'll give you some real life examples. In the course of a day, we're financing a solar project for a nonprofit on a new building, or we're actually financing a private jet for $60 million for a client that we're talking to about sustainable fuel sources or carbon offsets, or we're buying thousands of acres of timber for a large nonprofit healthcare system and then talking to them about carbon reports and sustainability reports, or we're building a investment portfolio that's aligned to a fossil fuel-free portfolio and divesting and using MSCI reports for data and analytics and so on and so forth. So in the course of a day, it's a little bit of everything that connects into all things sustainability. But the more I learn, again, the more I learn. So the beauty of this continued education is I was not prepared to anchor all these sustainable finance and capital solutions into environmental and social justice. I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't knowledgeable enough about it, not because it wasn't taught to me, it just never got there in my learning. So this continued education is, well, how do we think about capital solutions, sustainable capital solutions, in a more environmentally and social just way? So that's sort of this nexus of where my PhD program is sitting right now. And sort of this interrelated sort of thought is, in the course of my day in banking, you have to understand, businesses and business balance sheets and tax returns and P&Ls. You got to understand things within sustainability, and that could be, again, what does fossil fuel free actually mean? What does shareholder advocacy actually mean, and how do you actually do that? What is sustainable fuel? Like all these things. So this continued learning is a little bit of all of that pieced together, depending upon the individual and or client or nonprofit we're sitting in front of. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, that's why the continued education is in the forefront right now.
Yes, of course, that answers my question and just spawns a whole lot more. But I think that, your mission for continued learning actually brings us to our next speaker, who has written and talked a little bit about this and the various pathways that we can take toward continued learning. So Julian, I know that recently in the past couple of years, you've published an inventory of sustainability credentials that can complement higher education and higher ed curriculum. Can you talk a little bit more about these ideas of how to bridge how higher education programs can bridge, credentials and provide people with more training in the workforce? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, GCSE. This is such a great convening, and I'm happy to be a part of it. My background has been mostly working with National Wildlife Federation and teams of students, faculty, and staff working to develop climate action plans, curb carbon emissions, and achieve a return on investment. And I also helped to launch some fairly large surveys with the 2- and 4-year colleges and universities. And I currently teach at University North Carolina at Greensboro, and recently started a Green Teach for Opportunity program to help teachers connect students with careers that require sustainability skills. And what I want to say to your question, Alex, is that bridge from high school to a post-secondary credential in college is really critical. And I think of somebody like Lenny. I'm just making up this, kind of fictional person, but Lenny is somebody that if we're teaching in a classroom, we're all working with someone like him. He is really good at math. He's very talented, but he comes from a low-income background. He is a person of color, and he is having to take care of his family. And toward the end of the pandemic, he never really went back physically to school. He's doing all of his studies online because it's a whole lot cheaper. And as a result, he's kind of missing out on a lot of the interaction with the other faculty and students. So, it's a tough situation that he's in, but he's really talented. He wants to make a difference and he wants to get a good job. And so to do that, he's going to need a post-secondary credential in most cases. And that could be a professional credential, or it could be an AA degree at a community college, even better if it's both. And the earnings and the job, the really good job that he lands because of that will help him then save money to go on to university. And so instead of, going right out of high school into an advanced degree, Lenny is going to find himself kind of doing a bit of both, earning some education and experience and then going back to college and advancing. And so, in his case, his high school teacher took an interest in him, helped him figure out a career path. identify that he could earn, say, a certificate from NABCEP in solar design and installation. He got a good job with a solar firm. He then went on to a community college for an AA degree in energy management. He got a job with a group like, let's say, Bureau Haphold, which is working with a place like the city of Santa Monica, which is reclaiming their energy and materials and water and trying to achieve net zero. They want Lenny to, come in and help them figure out how to automate their systems. So Lenny, who is from the South, and he's in danger, disproportionate danger of losing jobs due to automation, is actually getting out ahead of automation. And if you're interested in that dynamic and sustainability, Jamie Marasotis has written a fascinating book called Human Work. So the work in looking at accreditations, credentials, I'll wrap this up to just say that there is a piece, if you're interested, published by MDPI. It is a common source article that reviews the rating systems and related offerings coming out of industry associations that cover almost every sector, not just buildings and energy, but tourism and purchasing and the health sciences and various branches of engineering. And that was kind of a down payment on this bigger guidebook and directory for teachers, with the thought that if they do nothing else, one first step is to at least expose students to these industry rating systems and related offerings, credentials, et cetera, and to critique them, expose students and critique those offerings. And the final thing I'd like to say is that key competencies are helping Lenny have that edge in the job market, advance his opportunity. At the same time, it doesn't necessarily automatically lead Lenny to making the best decisions for performance without that grounding that key competencies need to have in context. And so there's a next step for us now that we have virtual consensus on what are the key competencies. The next step is to work together to put those competencies in context. And a lot of stories that we could all share about specific examples on the ground of doing that and not doing that. So with that, thanks.
Julian, I love your storytelling approach, and I really want to note that I do feel like you saw the whole individual, the whole system of a person as they're going through their educational journey. So I really appreciate, your approach to answering that question. And now I will turn to Professor Debra. Now, you have worked at this intersection of workforce and sustainability for 30 years, and I can see you've already put some comments in the chat, but I now want to open it up to you to offer any closing comments for our panel, anything you want to share with our audience today. Oh, excuse me, 42 years. I'm sorry, Deb.
It's okay. Talk to the employers. Continuously talk to the employers. Find out what they need. Build them into partnerships. Please don't have everybody have their own advisory committees, and then the employers can't go to all those meetings. And you're going to need to nudge them. I was on the phone yesterday with the Global Wind Organization. They have standards, but I said, that's fine. You got standards. We need curricula. Fund open source curricula that matches your standards. We've convened publishers so that they can get into textbooks. But these companies, particularly the ones building a green and sustainable economy, are working as fast as they can to try and meet the deadlines to stabilize climate and to prevent unnecessary massive human suffering. So let's roll out the red carpets to them. In your universities and colleges, we have a tendency to roll out the red carpets to the Accentures and to the Banks of America. Let's roll out. I love Bank of America for many reasons. They've been great partners, I got to say, including supporting the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance and doing amazing work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. But we also need to roll out, and of course, there's things that we still need to do out of the banking sector. I'm not even going to go there. But we should be teaching our students to be advocates. I would say not to be trained to apply for the jobs that exist, but to be trained to take any job, bring in a green and sustainability lens, and become intrapreneurs. In other words, change agents from within, and not just at their little position, but to create systems change. And so I put some information on that into the chat. There's a whole bunch of resources there just to give you a sense of the activities. The National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance exists. You can all join. It's free. We have a tendency to forget energy because it doesn't really exist as a discipline. It gets stuck into engineering programs and business programs. But if we're going to stabilize or at least prevent the worst impacts of climate change, we must accelerate the implementation of renewables and net zero. And that means making everybody energy literate. It means recruiting people into the field. You know, this status of you got to go to four-year schools. We've got to actually educate potential students and parents of no, you don't actually, because if you want to start on a career pathway in solar, wind, biomass, energy efficiency, community college or a trade school might be the best first. We should set up boot camps at universities that bring in those skill buildings. We need to do, and I'm working on now, national recruitment campaigns. Don't wait for the federal agencies or state agencies to do it, and they're flush with money right now. So let's be creative about the programs we need and reach out to those agencies and set up what's going to be ongoing initiatives. We've got a bunch of colleges and universities who are like, hey, we went through this 3 times before where this was going to be the moment of the clean energy transition and the sustainability transition. The jobs didn't show up. We had to shut down our programs. This is it, folks. This is our last chance to meet those science-based targets for climate. And the jobs are there now, thank goodness, because we had the Inflation Reduction Act that passed and even parts of that infrastructure bill. So let's jump outside of our normal job descriptions. Let's look at what's needed. And I'll just give you some examples. We're convening 37. Here I am. I'm like a retired community college professor, right? So what did I notice? That countries weren't collaborating on doing integrated policy making for sustainability and clean energy transition. So I went to the Clean Energy Ministerial. I said, you got to do something here. And so now we're having a meeting next week, 37 countries, governmental staff from education, economic development. Economic development money has always been around. How come it's not being geared towards a sustainable future, right? Industry, labor has got to be at the table. Social well-being, it's got to be an inclusive economy. We're bringing together policymakers to do integrated, coordinated instead of fragmented policies, but also empowerment. So look, I could talk for a long time and you guys just gave me a few minutes. So let me just stop here. We can go into the breakout groups. We run national and international fellows programs. 3 hours a week, few months out of the year, well, more than I need at least a 4-month commitment or I don't want to talk to you, right? But we will put you in a position where you can make national and international change, even while you're doing your other work, because we all have to accelerate this now, okay? We only have 7 years left to reduce greenhouse gases by 50% to prevent the worst impacts of climate change. Let's get going. Go sign up for the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. I'm doing a presentation next week on partnerships. I appreciate the work you're doing here with key competencies. Can I suggest that you connect with our Higher Education Sustainability Initiative, multiple UN agencies and higher ed networks? And we have a ratings, rankings, and assessment action group. Let's get Times Higher Ed. Let's get Elsevier's, all of those ratings and rankings to take into account this accreditation when it exists, because they actually said to me the other day, oh, there is consensus on learning outcomes. I didn't know that. So we're going to need to educate them about that. Lots of low-hanging fruit connections and possibilities. Let's go into the breakout groups and we'll talk some more. Thank you for inviting me.
Deb, I want to have one cool, succinct way to respond to your comments, but I couldn't possibly because of the wealth of experience and wisdom that you shared. So I'm just going to say, I hope that you all got a lot from all of our speakers here today, and that you have the opportunity to join our breakout rooms with them. We understand that some people might need to drop off, but those have been opened now.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a great conversation. I know we always wish we had a few more minutes, but that really felt like an opportunity to exchange information, advice, get connections. We're going to compile all of that. We had note taker in each room, so we will put together a comprehensive document to capture and synthesize what we heard today. So thank you so much to all of our panelists and everyone who could stay for the breakout rooms. Just to, again, sort of reiterate some of our next steps. We mentioned several times this proposal statement on key competencies in sustainability. We'll be sure that you get the link. It is available on the website. Anyone can read and respond to this survey. And we encourage you to do so in this extended peer review period. Some of our other next steps and ways to participate. The GCSE member community has a monthly community of practice meeting where, again, we really get into the details and the nitty-gritty of this work. And we love to welcome GCSE members there. We will be hosting and planning another big roundtable like this, and the topic is going to be climate justice and really looking at the whole justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion issue with sustainability degree programs and sustainability jobs. So that will be coming up. We're thinking about either joining or convening or somehow getting a mechanism for consistent input from the workforce, from some of the types of employers that we had here with us today. I'm thinking in my mind about Deb's advice, like, don't do a new thing, get a regional type of input. So I'm already processing the advice that I heard today. But we do want to keep this door open with workforce, with employers, with all the stakeholders in this idea of a program level accreditation. We're working also with ASHE, with ACE, which is the Association for Environmental Studies and Sciences. We are collaborating. There's a lot going on right now, and we're really interested in convening, collaborating, and doing what we can to strengthen and improve sustainability and sustainability-related degrees and certificates. We are at exactly 12:15. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate each and every one of you and the time that you've shared today. Thank you so much.